The morning air was crisp, carrying the sharp scent of pine and damp earth. Sunlight pierced through the mountain fog, illuminating the ridge in gold. Everything should have been serene. But then I saw it. Steel beams, scaffolding, bulldozers, chewing through the trees, leveling the ridge I'd inherited from my grandfather. My land, my sanctuary. Karen stood above it all, sunglasses reflecting the sun, clipboard in hand. She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile that promised chaos. Karen, you can't stop progress, Mr. Walker. This property is under HOA control. Me, not legally, not on my land. Her workers scurried like ants, blind to the law, blind to me, blind to what they were about to destroy. This wasn't just a property dispute. It was a war over legacy, justice, and every inch of land my family had fought for. The morning sun broke over the ridge, scattering light across my property, but serenity had already been replaced by chaos. The smell of fresh pine mixed with smoke from the bulldozers. The machines roared like beasts tearing through the trees, reducing decades of forest to splintered debris. My grandfather's land, my family's legacy, was being obliterated in front of my eyes. I parked my truck on the gravel path, grabbed my camera, and sprinted toward the site. Karen stood at the top of the ridge, clipboard in hand, her sunglasses reflecting the sun like armor. She noticed me immediately. Karen, Mr. Walker, what a surprise to see you here so early. Me, and what a surprise to see my land being destroyed. She laughed, a high-pitched, calculated sound that grated against my nerves. Karen, everything here is approved. HOA rules apply. Me, not legally, not on my property, you're trespassing. Her workers paused mid-strike, their chainsaws idling as they glanced nervously at me. Some whispered among themselves. The truth in my voice had caused hesitation. I climbed the ridge slowly, each step measured, camera ready. Every frame I captured would later tell the story of their illegal construction. I pulled out my grandfather's deeds, the property map, and county records showing the exact boundaries. Me, they thought authority and money made them untouchable. I had something stronger, law, proof, and patience. Karen's face hardened as she barked orders. Karen, keep going. Don't stop for him. The workers hesitated, unsure of whether to risk confrontation or obey. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Me, stop. Every inch you touch is private property. You're committing trespass and destruction of property. Her smirk faltered slightly. She had counted on fear keeping everyone in line. Today, she'd underestimated me. I called the sheriff. Deputy over phone, unauthorized construction on private land. Me, exactly, stop them immediately. By afternoon, the machinery slowed. Karen's workers knew the law was on my side, but she wasn't finished. That evening, I found an eviction notice taped to a tree by the driveway. Unauthorized resident vacate immediately. I took a deep breath and ripped it down. A neighbor peeked from behind the blinds, neighbor whispering, be careful. She doesn't play fair. Me, I don't play scared, I play smart. I spent the night printing signs. Private property, not HOA land. Trespassers will be prosecuted the next morning. Karen returned with her clipboard and a new army of workers. She tried intimidation. Karen, you're making this difficult. Stop interfering. Me, this isn't interference. This is defending my land. I filmed every word, every action. Her crew faltered again. Some whispered, maybe we shouldn't be here. By mid-morning, the local media arrived. A reporter caught wind of the story and began filming the destruction. Karen's confidence wavered further. Reporter, sir, can you explain what's happening here? Me, they're building illegally on my land. These deeds and county records prove it. Everything they've done is unauthorized. The crowd of neighbors grew. People who had lived in fear of Karen's HOA authority began whispering, filming, and pointing. Karen's smile vanished. She had never encountered public scrutiny this early in her schemes. That night, more threats arrived. Mailbox smashed, graffiti across my fence, and anonymous notes warning me to leave. I didn't panic. I repaired, reinforced, and documented. Every act of intimidation became evidence. Me, fear is their weapon. Proof is mine. One day, that will make all the difference. By the end of part 1, the battle lines were drawn. Karen and her HOA forces thought they could intimidate me into surrender. I knew I had patience, evidence, and the law on my side. The fight for my land had only just begun. The sun rose over the ridge again, but the serenity of the mountains was gone. Chainsaws, drills, and hammers echoed across the forest as Karen's crew tried to resume construction. I stood at the edge of my driveway, fists clenched, camera in hand. Today, I wasn't just defending land, I was defending legacy. They think persistence and fear win battles. They forgot one rule: never underestimate someone who knows the law. I approached the site, my steps steady, eyes scanning every machine, every worker. Karen noticed me immediately. Karen, back again. You really don't understand who's in charge here, do you? Me. I understand exactly who's in charge, and it's not you. She snapped her fingers, calling her crew to attention. Finish the job. Don't let him stop you. One of the workers hesitated. I could see doubt flicker in their eyes. I walked closer, deliberately showing my grandfather's deeds. Me, every inch you touch, mine. Trespassers are being recorded. Do you want to go to jail? The whisper of fear spread among the crew. Karen's authority had always depended on blind obedience, not today. Suddenly, a bulldozer revved up too close to a tree I'd marked as the boundary. I sprinted forward, waving my arms. Stop, stop. That tree is on private property. The operator froze, the machine's engine growling like a beast held in check. Karen shouted from above, Karen, ignore him, move forward. I didn't back down. I called the sheriff again, this time demanding immediate intervention. Within minutes, a patrol car appeared, sirens wailing, cutting through the morning tension. Karen's face turned pale for the first time. Officer, step back, ma'am. This property is being contested. Yes, they're trespassing and constructing illegally. Karen tried to argue, waving her clipboard. Officer, this is approved, officer. By who? County records say otherwise. Halt all activity until verification. The construction crew stopped mid-action. The machines hissed and idled. Karen's confident smirk cracked. I walked up to her, the camera capturing every second. You wanted control. You wanted fear. But the law and truth are stronger than your arrogance. Neighbors began gathering along the road, murmuring, filming, some even cheering. The power dynamic had shifted. Karen's HOA empire had depended on intimidation and secrecy. Now, everything was in plain view. Karen through gritted teeth. This isn't over. You think a few papers will stop me. I don't think. I know. I spent the afternoon documenting everything: machinery, footprints, the destruction of the ridge, Karen's interactions. Every illegal act would be evidence in court. I called a local reporter who began filming live. By evening, Karen attempted her next move. She sent a team with heavy machinery to move my boundary markers, hoping to falsify records and make it seem like the HOA controlled the property. I intercepted them, filming every angle. Adjust my markers and you'll be charged with tampering and obstruction of justice. One worker hesitated, shaking his head. Another muttered, maybe we shouldn't. Karen realized her army was faltering. She stormed toward me. Karen, you'll regret this. I've handled people like you before. You've never handled me. The tension escalated further when one of the workers accidentally knocked over a stack of steel beams, causing a small collapse. No one was hurt, but the scene resembled chaos controlled by fate. Karen panicked, shouting orders that only made things worse. At sunset, I made my move. I printed the official county boundary map, highlighting every illegal extension the HOA had claimed. I stapled it to a massive wooden sign and placed it prominently at the entrance to my property. This is the line. Beyond this, you are on private land. Step back. The crowd of neighbors who had been watching began applauding. Some even cheered. Karen froze, realizing she had lost control over both the crew and public perception. Before she could speak, the sheriff returned with 2 deputies. Deputy M.S. Green, construction on Mr. Walker's property must cease immediately. Violation of court injunction will lead to arrests. Karen's face paled. She looked from the deputies to her workers, to the crowd, to me. Karen, you can't do this. I already have. The law is on my side. Her workers quietly abandoned the site, fearing legal consequences. Karen backed into her SUV, hands shaking on the wheel. The neighbors whispered, filmed, and finally felt relief. The fear Karen had instilled for years began to evaporate. I didn't celebrate just yet. This was only the escalation. The war for my property was still ongoing, but now I had leverage, law, and public attention on my side. The first victory is always the hardest. Once fear crumbles, momentum builds, and once momentum builds, even the strongest oppressors fall. The morning sun spilled gold across the ridge, but tension hung thicker than fog. Karen's SUV was gone, but the threat lingered like smoke in the air. I stood at the edge of my property, surveying the chaos her HOA had left behind: torn grass, scattered tools, and a few abandoned construction materials. But I also saw something else, eyes peeking from neighbors' windows, cameras recording, whispers of support spreading. I knew the final act was near. I called my attorney, someone I trusted completely. He arrived within the hour, briefcase in hand, filled with the legal arsenal we would need. They've tried intimidation, vandalism, and manipulation. Today it ends. Attorney, let's make sure it does. Every violation, every trespass, every illegal action. They all go on record. The court won't ignore this. Karen returned mid-morning, her confidence fragile, veneer cracking. She stepped out of her car with a clipboard, shouting across my property. Karen, Mr. Walker, you think you've won. The board will not allow this. The board doesn't own this land. I do, and today the law will make that clear to everyone. Her HOA minions were scattered, some hiding behind machinery, some frozen on the street. Her army of intimidation was gone. Only her fury remained. Karen, you can't prove anything. The county, me interrupting, already done. I held up my folder. Inside were the original plats, deeds, and stamped court documents proving her claims were fraudulent. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had no words. Within minutes, sheriff deputies arrived, this time with a court order in hand. Deputy M.S. Green, you are hereby ordered to cease all activities on Mr. Walker's property immediately. Any violation will result in criminal charges. Karen's face went pale, a flash of panic crossing her eyes. She glanced at her minions. None moved. Her control had evaporated. I watched as Karen stormed back to her SUV, shouting futile threats that fell on deaf ears. The deputies let her go, but her aura of invincibility had been shattered. The courtroom showdown 2 weeks later, the real battle began. I entered the county courthouse with my attorney, files thick, evidence organized. Reporters had arrived, neighbors lined the benches, cameras rolling. The room buzzed with anticipation. Karen appeared impeccably dressed but tense. She had no allies, just her false confidence and a clipboard of meaningless papers. Judge, we are here regarding the dispute over Maple Ridge property boundaries and alleged HOA overreach. Karen tried to argue, waving her stack of papers. Karen, Your Honor, the board acted in good faith. The homeowner, Your Honor, they acted illegally. They trespassed, vandalized, and misrepresented ownership. I have full documentation. I laid the deeds, plats, emails, photographs, and witness statements across the table. Karen's smug smile faltered. Judge, M.S. Green, these documents indicate clear violations. How do you respond? Silence. A long, tension-filled pause. The weight of truth in the room was palpable. Karen looked around, realizing everyone, the judge, neighbors, reporters, saw her for what she was, a bully stripped of authority. Judge, the HOA is hereby ordered to cease all claims and actions on Mr. Walker's property. Any future violations will result in severe legal penalties. Case dismissed in favor of Mr. Walker. The courtroom erupted. Neighbors cheered softly but proudly. Reporters flashed cameras. Karen's face burned crimson. She had lost everything: power, reputation, and credibility. Neighborhood liberation back on my property. I walked along the ridge. The air smelled clean, free. The mountain that had witnessed the battle now stood quiet, majestic, and untouchable. I repaired my fences, reinforced boundaries, and planted new trees where destruction had occurred. Neighbors began approaching, offering congratulations, sharing stories of how Karen had terrorized them. Their fear was gone. For the first time in years, the community felt free. I set up cameras not to intimidate, but to ensure the past chaos didn't return. The HOA, once untouchable, had been dissolved under state investigation. Karen had resigned quietly, unable to face the consequences. Me, the law is slow, but it is stronger than arrogance. Power built on fear will crumble when faced with truth. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting fiery streaks across the sky, I poured a glass of water and looked over the land. Peace had returned, not the quiet of fear, but the quiet of victory of justice served. And I knew in that moment that some wars are worth fighting slowly, deliberately, and legally, because when the battle ends, the result is not just victory, it's lasting freedom. Never let someone intimidate you into believing they own what you rightfully possess. Stand firm, document everything, and trust the law. Power built on fear fades, but truth lasts forever.